And like Ben said at the very beginning of the interview, like when you're on your way out, your life is finishing, what will you be looking back on? Will it be the fact that you have the biggest bank account, or will it be the fact that there was a young boy who really, really needed the help in the community, such as Isaac? That is like my heart. I don't know if you heard, but like my heart was singing at that point, and like with praise for all of the work that everyone was doing to make his life and his family's life as much as it could be under the circumstances. And that's what we need to be remembering,
Right.
those acts of altruism and care and love for other people. It's the work that's being done in the quiet, in the shadows, that I believe is often the most important work.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, that sort of leads me into an area that I really want to talk about with you, Ben, is the area of the first responders and
Yeah.
the PTSD and how much they're struggling out there, and how, if there's anything that you can share with them from everything that you've experienced and PTSD, and what could you share with them to make their world and everything just a better place for them at the moment, because they're getting hammered.
Yeah. Right. And yeah, yes. One, I've been, it's something that I've lost a lot of sleep on here lately, and in my life, as we seek to create systems where people certainly have security, and they have a sense of peace in their community, and they have a sense of justice, and that each person experiences a sense that I'm valued. Like that speaks kind of to what I talked about a little bit with our nonprofit, the United Patriot Missions, where for those who gave their lives so that this nation could be free, we owe them, in my opinion, we owe them to make, and this happens for every country. You have no, there's doesn't, it's not just America, it's Australia, it's all these people, the finest people there are so many fine people who go to work every day, and they strap on a bulletproof vest, or they strap on safety gear, or they strap on all of the COVID-19 PPE to help people not contract COVID as they go into a hospital to serve others. Or they man the crisis lines, and they take the brunt of people who are struggling and wondering whether it's worth living anymore. And these amazing people go with the purest of intentions, and they go out there and they say, I will do that job. I will, when violence is happening in homes, I will go there. And if they shoot at me, they shoot at me, I'm going to go. But I am going to do everything I can to rescue people who need help, who are overwhelmed. And certainly no nation is perfect, and no person is 100% perfect either. So my main message for everybody involved is that we need a greater dose of compassion and understanding to invest in our mental health systems to make them effective, because we cannot send men and women out into dangerous situations with a gun on their hip and with a bulletproof vest, and we can't send them out consistently into the most twisted and awful realities that human beings put themselves through without caring for them as a whole person. And if we don't have leadership in public service organizations that are really paying close attention to mental health, and if we get past, especially I'm speaking a lot toward, I guess, the males in the audience here, where a lot of times we do a lot of harm to others with a mentality of just cowboy up, suck it up. Feelings are not important. Just stuff it down. Just forget it. Just go to work and don't whine about it, and don't be weak. We can't stand having, those messages destroy people. And true strength for men and women is to be able to articulate after they do CPR on a baby. They need to have a moment to process that, to get help if they need it. because if when you go into these situations, I remember doing CPR on a guy who had been shot through the neck and the face, and I remember, you know, all of those sights and sounds of this, and just thinking, yeah, frustrated at a system that keeps people in poverty, that people are experiencing this poverty, and we have systems that seem more built upon greed and financial gain than upon humanity, and experiencing and this and seeing this play out and seeing people take their own life and seeing the families crying as they find their loved one, or, you know, all of these things. This is what first responders see every day, and they're often compared to the Vietnam veterans of America, that they're neglected in a sense of understanding the significance of what they go through every day, of what they see, of what they're expected to manage. And we have such dysfunction in our political system where solutions are not happening on our streets, on our homes, in our financial sector. These things are not being resolved by our political leaders, so they're being managed by cops on the street. They're making these decisions, you know, trying to work with the courts to solve these complex problems. And a lot of our public service organizations don't have the funding or the oversight or the leadership to actually bring about the solutions. And so the things that are not happening on high, they play out into violence in the streets. And so, and certainly there needs to be, and certainly there cannot be racism in any. Racism is not to be tolerated in any way, and for especially in America, our African American community that has been treated with such discrimination and prejudice and animosity and violence and abuses. You know, this is where I see people who are supposed to, you know, give justice. This is a profound opportunity for all of us to grow. This is a profound opportunity to have. When we talk about what law enforcement is, people comply with the law when they find it valid, when they find that it's a valid law. If everyone sees it as this law that we have, that makes sense. It keeps us safe, and we're going to adhere to it. That's what gets compliance for the law. And I think a lot of the violence and the post-traumatic stress distances people from other people, and we have this animosity towards people who are different from us, largely because people are trying to deal with trauma. And so if we can look at, like I said before, to take a different mindset, like instead of just going after pleasure and running from pain, if we actually stopped and looked at our pain and we started articulating and speaking out about our pain, then people in our community would understand that what police are going through and what failures of leadership are that are leaving them dealing with severe post-traumatic stress and awful and mental illness that just is more officers take their own life every year in America than are lost during moments of shootings and car crashes that happen. I mean, officers are taking their own life. They're trying to deal with all of this trauma. They're being called racist murderers. They're walking off the job. In Atlanta, there was nobody to respond to 911 calls because officers are saying, we're not doing this work anymore. If we're all racist murderers and we go out every night into the most awful things and we have to wear a gun and a bulletproof vest to go out and deal with this, it's not worth it. We're not going to, the officers are overwhelmed. They're not willing to do it. And African American and people who are marginalized in our society, they want to feel heard and they want to feel known and they want to stop being killed. And they on a traffic stop, they want to know that the law enforcement officer is there to provide security and is a peace officer in that community to bring peace and to be a master performer when it comes to conflict resolution. We need to really understand each other more. We need to have the dialogue. We need to understand each other's pain, and we need to liberate each other out of this vicious cycle. This is a massive opportunity that we are in right now, and it is a profound opportunity, like we've been talking about all night, to look at our pain, because our pain is not just ours. It's other people who are feeling. If we're feeling pain, chances are someone else is feeling a similar pain.
Just look to your right, look to your left.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're everywhere.
That's right. Yeah.
Dawn, do we have any comments coming through or any questions at all for Ben?
We just got a bunch of people joining here recently. Let me scroll through. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Ben? Go ahead and put them in the comment section. I can't talk. I'm not seeing any yet, so I'll keep an eye on that. But I wanted to mention also that when we're talking about being heard, everybody needs to be heard. Everybody has a voice. Everybody needs that validation, and there's no reason why they should be robbed of that. So it's really important that we stop, pause for a second, and just, listen. And that saying, and it's kind of cliche, but we have one mouth and two ears for a reason, and we need to be lending those ears a little bit more and listening to the troubles that other people are experiencing. And how can we be part of that solution? We want to be part of a community. Well, our community includes all of us.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I agree.
So
100%.
what do you think needs to be changed with the mental health system with regards to helping first responders? Do you have any ideas apart from loads more training for mental health professionals in the working with first responders, and a lot more support services and things?
Yeah, I think if so I think the people who practice, they have that solution that's there. I think what needs to happen is the companies that handle the funding for it, and the insurance companies and things like that, there needs to be reform in the process so that the complex amount of rules and regulations and things that it needs to be catered to a real system that is actually catered toward, is the person thriving? And that is that person who is thriving or living at the height of their potential, that helps create people who contribute to society, who are involved. And so if instead of, I have a lot of, as far as what my understanding of in America, we have a lot of billing issues and complex problems when it comes to, transitions and services not being available, and because of the cost of everything. And so there is a huge problem with the business of healthcare and mental health care, and we need to do, basically, in my opinion, what we need is a much more restorative or rehabilitative justice system that is built upon helping people who enter the justice system thrive, instead of a punishment-based criminal justice system. It can't just be, we're giving trauma to people who have had histories of trauma.
And
so
then we
they're not
have
testing.
recidivism. We expect them to be released and go live normal lives, but we haven't helped them at all.
Right. And if you talk, and so there needs to be reforms in a sense of the focus, I think, of every public service organization is, are the people that I am serving, are they thriving? Am I helping them get to the point where they're thriving? I don't care if they're, I don't care whoever they are, whatever shape and form they come in. There cannot be if there's marginalized people in a community, one thing that I had advocated for was, if there is anybody in that community, and what I'm saying is first responder organizations need to first have the trust of their community, right? So that basis, once you have trust, then you have the beginnings of progress. Then you have the beginnings of the solution, because you're trusting each other. There's no mistrust, and then there's people and then you got all the ego-driven stuff where everybody's like trying to work their way around a system, and then you got to have a politician who's like incendiary to try to like say we got to be tough on crime and all this crap. What needs to happen in our mental health and our medical communities and our criminal justice communities is there needs to be the focus on, are the people that I'm serving thriving? Is this offender who committed this crime, are they understanding the reasons for why that happened? Are they learning? Are they gaining the self-awareness that they need in order to get to a point where they would never find themselves reacting in that way again, because they've been given the tools and the coping skills to help them navigate stress better? or they're provided with the treatment that they need for substance abuse, and they're as they deal with substance abuse and trying to get clean or trying to get into recovery, are they being supported and encouraged and freed from the shame that comes from being, stalked by law enforcement and then put in jail and then shamed for that, and then their mental health treatment goes out the window because then they are getting incarcerated, and all of these things are happening. There needs to be a uniformed front that says, are these people thriving, and what needs to happen to get them to thrive? And that's possible.
So what would it look like? And it is humanly possible, but what would it look like if we were looking at an individual that got themselves into this situation? If we were to try and give them, maybe they should have access to mental health care. Maybe everybody should have some access to mental health, and it shouldn't be, looked on bad, poorly. It should be something that we all welcome so that we can be healthy, mind, spirit, and body. But what would it look like for them if we were able to concentrate or look back and help them see what caused the trauma that led them into maybe drinking? What are the reasons that, maybe they decided to rob the liquor store? There are reasons behind every single action that we do. And I think if we were to help people look at those and heal, that would be a way to reduce a lot of crime and helping people thrive. Would that not?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And so one thing that I own the Ideal State Consulting is my company. So Ideal State. So if you're going to affect change in an organization or a society or a community or yourself, first of all, we have to articulate what is the ideal state, right? We have to understand what is the ideal state. And the way I see it is, nation states, their ideal state is every person who's a part of that nation state thriving, right? Not living in fear, living in love in their heart. So with love for others, with practically lived love, not like rainbows and butterflies and bunnies running around, like a lived compassionate love for others that lives with empathy and respect, right? But also internally to say, what I have as much value as everyone else. So I need that for me too. And it's not selfish. It's not selfish to say that. It's my need. It's like food. Why would I be ashamed of needing food to live? I need love. I need people to listen to me. I need to be able to share my ideas. I need to be able to do work that is satisfying. These are my needs internally to be happy and to be living a life of love within. And then once I experience that for myself, then I can give that to others because I expect that from me, but then I expect that from others. And then when I see somebody in my community who isn't thriving, who does not feeling heard, who's not feeling satisfied, who's not feeling enlivened and amazed that we live on planet Earth and no one knows if there's any other planets in the entire universe where life exists, and we have this opportunity and we have the amazing ability to breathe and talk. You and I used to work with dementia patients, and just sharing an idea is a challenge for them, but we can talk about these ideas for hours, and I can say something and you can understand it, and you can say something and I can understand it. These are profound gifts that we need to be grateful for. So are we living in this amazed and passionate, in this fullness of living that honors with great gratitude the opportunity to be alive, to breathe, to share connection? Are we living that way? Are our friends, are our families, are our enemies feel like living that way as well? Because if we live that way, there is no enemy. And if we live that way, violence goes away. And if we live that way, it's all of us thriving and growing and building. So that's our ideal state. So then if we look at that, then what's our actual state? We have to, and our actual state is not there, right? But once we identify our actual state, then we can articulate where those gaps are and we can close those gaps. And so if we as a nation, as a world, as a community can get together and say, where is our pain? Where is our pain? And I'm willing to say, if you're experiencing pain, then I'm going to do something about it. I'm not going to allow African-American children to grow up in poor communities where there's shootings every night. I would never allow that. How many of my friends died in Iraq and Afghanistan so that America could be a place of security? So why are we allowing African-American children to die in Chicago or in any inner city? Why do we even have inner cities in the first place? Because there needs to be a collective action that say, if you have pain, that hurts me. And I'm going to do everything I can and levy all resources that I have to heal your pain because you are my brother and because you are my sister.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So
that's where it needs to take place, right there, grassroots community level.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And what you've just said there is exactly what needs to happen. We need to be on there in the grassroots. It should not be happening at all in this day and age on this planet.
Right.
But having you mentioned just before about working with people with dementia, and I know that you've worked with the geriatric populations dealing with psychiatric challenges with dementia, and I wanted to lead you into caregivers because I know that that's something that you're very passionate about too, and challenge the idea of caregivers and looking at compassion fatigue and raising awareness around that and self-care within the community, because what's happening in my world, what I see is the government organisations are really not doing the job that they need to be doing. I don't know where the money's going most of the time. We get given billions of dollars. I don't see it on the front line in mental health. So that's why I wrote the Senpai model, to teach people how to sit with other people on a grassroots level in community. And the caregivers are taking a huge amount of work on at the moment, especially with COVID, because a lot of the support workers now cannot go out into the communities, or they're having their wages cut and they're being withdrawn from community, and the caregivers are absolutely copping the brunt of this, and self-care is major. And I've got caregivers coming to me and people in total crisis. And I'd really like to get you to speak about that for a moment, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. And see, this is what I love about these conversations is I love the frontline workers. I love the people who go to work and they see it. They have to endure it. They have to see what's happening, and they are the ones that see the challenge happening, and they're the ones who are actually doing the work, right? So we have so many layers and bureaucracies that people way at the top may not have any idea.
None
on the streets, and it's unacceptable. That
I agree.
It's a complete lack of leadership, right? So I think what we're seeing today in the United States, right, we're seeing failed leadership for the last at least 25 years. We're seeing people that it's a failed leadership problem. If law enforcement and officers that are experiencing all of this, that are coming their way, and all this hatred and vitriol, people are being murdered, cops are being murdered, and people are, and all of this, and how many people have been shot by police officers that they feel that they were that was viewed as murder. This is a failed leadership system.
I agree.
It's not the everyday people that are on the streets. It's that are busting their tails, that are going home exhausted, that are working the 3 to 4 hour extra shifts every day, and going home just zombies, so that their marriage starts failing, so they start drinking, so they start having suicidal thoughts themselves, because they give and they give and they give and they give, and management is like in some of the healthcare organizations where I'm at, they will frequently hire people with management degrees but no medical background. So then,
that's right. It's very incongruent. That doesn't even make sense to do that. You need the lived experience and you need the degree. That's a very powerful combination.
Right.
But that's exactly, you're dead right, because when our fires were absolutely pretty much out of control, fires from hell here in Australia, our Prime Minister, and I'm going to get a lot of heat over this, but I'm really pissed about it, went to Hawaii. And we had 2 first responders killed in the line of duty, 2 firefighters, and that's what it took to get him to come back in the country. And having said that, we had an ex-Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, actually on the front line as a firefighter, because I'll give him credit. he is a firefighter on the front line as well as being a politician, and he knows what it's like out there. He was just down the road from me here fighting on the front line. So he's got cred. He's a politician. I want to absolutely see more of that so that they understand what's going on out there in the front line. And I say to them, come with me on the streets, see my homeless people, hear their stories. A lot of them have come from professional backgrounds, and it's one thing led to the other, and now they're there. And there's this big gap between us and them. And with our system over here called the NTIS, it's being run by people who are corporate, who have never even spoken to any of the people that they're making life decisions about their money about. And this is huge gap, and I am standing up in the middle of it saying not good enough. And I completely agree with you, Ben.
I do as well. And I just want to add that it's definitely a breakdown, but it's a major disconnect between our leaders and our communities. And until the leaders start getting a grip with reality, I don't see that they're going to be able to help in this situation. So I think that's why there's such an upraising in demands for the reform. And we've got to start getting our leaders to stop pushing for votes and start working for the people.
Right. There needs to be practical solutions. There's practical solutions. Like if leadership spent even a quarter amount of the time that they do doing whatever they do.
Down at the table, start having a conversation.
Exactly. If they spent a quarter of their time actually finding a practical solution to something, you know, how many, if we actually stopped with all the games up at that level and actually just found people, subject matter experts who know their field, who work their field, who have expertise in it, and you put the finest minds and the most experienced people together, they will find a solution. Just get out the way and they will find a solution. And so it's people that it's wherever the money's coming from that buys the votes, that buys the power, that buys us, whatever it is. Whenever people decide that wealth is not success, and once they figure out that success is truly helping people thrive, then instead of just being rich and driving a nice car and being, I guess, in the news a lot, like as soon as people like find the soul within them and actually connect the soul to other people in their community that they care about, until we get to the point that is the leaders that we decide to vote for and that we decide to follow and that we decide to give that contract with them, that social contract that says, all right, if you as my leader decide to do what you say, then we will follow and we'll work together to create solutions that affect our world. But if we're going to be done with the leadership process that's happening, the world is devoid of leadership at this point right now. It seems like quality leadership that when the fires are burning, they're out bringing water to the firefighters. I mean, you got to
see them be part of that community instead of being up there on their cloud nine while we're down here working on the ground. We're on the front lines. We're the grassroots. And we're the ones that are supposed to be telling them what we want. So there's that disconnect again.
If it's the power of humility, and it's the power of humility that says, truly living is not just seeking pleasure sustained over a certain amount of period of time and then we die. That is not success. That is not successful living. That is not living.
Well, and then let's look back 100 years. What are they going to see when they look back and you're just this little blip and you're no longer relevant? You're no longer important. You did not do anything substantial to improve, and they talk about a utopia. You can't have utopia if we're not thriving. Our communities need to thrive and our nations need to thrive. And when we have that thriving, people, like you said, people are more willing to follow the laws and to contribute to their society when we're thriving.
Right.
And that makes everybody.
Exactly. And they need to feel heard. Like they say, the riot is the language of the unheard, right? So they have, the people who are rioting have not felt heard. And so when they're shot for situations that were escalated instead of de-escalated. It shows the massive disrespect. It shows the mentality that says these people are not part of this. These people are not being given, the respect that they deserve to be a part of this nation, this group, this thing. If they're just being shot like dogs in the street and they're not being heard, that's why riots happen. And a successful law enforcement, organization has so much emotional intelligence, empathy, and a desire to solve the root causes of things, that police should be the biggest advocates for an ending of poverty, for just wages, because they're out in the streets for mental health care for all, for medical care that's affordable for people. Cops on the streets see where this line of civility kind of ebbs and fades. And so they have to see all these horrendous things, and they see it and they smell it and they taste it. And they're out there seeing these people who are suffering. They're seeing people who are violent. They're seeing people who are suicidal. And then they are taking on all this trauma, this vicarious trauma themselves, because they're dealing with this. And they're just this nice, convenient paramilitary force that just is forced to keep America.
That should never be put onto them anyway.
Yeah. It's these things that they're seeing are because of failed efforts from on high. And if these things had been solved, it would not be this intense. It would not be this traumatic for everyone involved. It would be something where there are solutions. So there is peace. There would be justice, and then there would be peace. Is a thing where all these struggling, brave men and women who go out there and they hit the streets, and that's their goal. They do not want to take people's rights from them. They do not want to get in violent situations. They want to create a finer world. They want to see the people that they're serving thrive. They want to thrive. They don't want to go home at night flashing on the blood that is all over their uniform, and wondering if the fight they got into with the guy tonight, if he has AIDS or if he has hepatitis C, or if he has some sort of bloodborne thing that is now all over them because some government funding ran out on the medicine he needs to keep him stable from bipolar or from schizophrenia.
Total disconnect.
There has to be practical situations. There are answers. It's not hard. It's not difficult. People just need to take action in an effective way. And with all the garbage that's in the way and standing in the way of actually creating these solutions, people are dying. People are dying of every race.
Which should be the biggest wake-up call of a lifetime, that people are actually dying. This isn't just an argument or a protest anymore. This is people actually, lives are being lost. It's not a game. We can't play games like this.
That's right.
So how do we get to that perseverance?
What's that?
Sorry, Elise.
Sorry, I was just thinking, because I work with the police and then I work with the community, and pretty much most of the police that I work with are empathic, kind, amazing human beings who are doing a job that they're underpaid for. They're not being supported enough mentally, and that needs to be looked at from a government level as well, because they're expecting them to do a job that is, I would personally not want to be doing at all, because I see the other end of it when they come in to see me and they're talking about what they're seeing, what they're being exposed to, how frustrated they are, and with the help that they need to be getting as well from their leadership. It's very, very difficult even for their leadership within their police ranks. We need more government assistance for the police. We need them to have more training around mental health out in the communities to be able to work with the people that they're dealing with as well. And just the whole thing needs to be completely looked at, and now is the time.